Okay, well, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I studied forestry at the University of Wales, Bangor, and after I graduated, I got a job with the Northern Ireland Forest Service, and I worked for 33 years with the Northern Ireland Forest Service in various roles and all around Northern Ireland. And latterly, I finished off in a skilling in policy and regulation. I did a course in the biodiversity components of forestry at University College Cork, and that sort of fueled an interest in environmental forestry. And when I saw the opportunity with the Rivers Trust come up, it seemed to tick all the boxes that I was interested in. So here I am now, and I started back at the end of August last year. So riparian planting. Why plant riparian woodland? Well, you can mitigate against climate change. As we all know, temperatures are rising in the summer. We have some of the hottest summers of recent times. So the trees can cool water and shade the water, and that's good for key species like salmon. So it is, which like cool water, and similarly with trout. So you got protection of biodiversity, including key species such as salmon. Trees provide food for salmon with insects falling off the trees, and also leaves provide food for invertebrates in the river. There's reduced flooding. Tree roots break up the soil and allow water to permeate deeper into the soil level, so slowing the flow and increasing storage of water. There's improved water quality through filtration. You're conserving the soil. The tree roots bind the soil together and stop erosion of banks, help stop erosion of banks. Trees sequester carbon. That's a fancy term for carbon capture. Trees take in carbon dioxide, give out oxygen, and store the carbon in the tree structures. There's enhancement of the landscape. I should all agree that riparian woodlands sit nicely in the landscape and look well, particularly native woodlands. And last but not least, there's timber. There's no reason why riparian woodlands can't produce some good quality timber if managed correctly and sensitively. And at the very least, they should produce a bit of fuel wood sustainably. I hasten that. Gone are the days when you can fly like this, stuck flying the hillside, because we don't plant deep peat anymore. Similarly, we don't plant blanket bog or raised bog. They're stores of carbon in themselves, and heathland and species-rich grassland are important habitats as well. They're rare habitats, so we need to protect them. You have designated areas such as NHAs, or they're called ASSIs in Northern Ireland. The NHAs are natural heritage areas, and ASSIs are areas of special scientific interest. You also have SACs and SPAs. Special areas of conservation are designated under the Habitats Directive, and special protection areas are designated under the Birds Directive, and they're both European designations. So they're important, and if you were to plant in or near these, you'd have to consult with the relevant statutory authority. Breeding waders are important. They're ground nesting. They're under increased pressure, and afforestation is one of the pressures they're under. because they're ground nesting, they're liable to predation from foxes, and foxes get cover in woodland, and also from corvids or crows, which perch in the trees. So you'll find that ornithologists don't want too many trees near the species. Hen hares are the same, they're a ground nesting raptor. And you have the freshwater power mussel. If you're planting anywhere near freshwater power mussel, you have to be sensitive that you don't release sediment into the watercourse, which you shouldn't be doing anyway. I would think that riparian woodlands are low risk because they're native woodlands, or they can be native woodlands, and you might not carry out any ground preparation. So on the ground preparation, you can have none. That's as you just plant directly into the ground. You can have hand scraping, which means you just use a spade to tear away the tough vegetation and you plant in that spot. You could have mounding. That could be a continuous acting mounder, which is just pulled behind a tractor, or it could be an excavator. If it's excavators, the more usual form, and you can have trench mounding where the excavator digs a shallow trench, takes the spoil out, and puts it in regular intervals either side of the trench. It's commonly used, but you wouldn't want to use it too close to a water course because the trench can act as a conduit for water. So you can have hinge mounding where you just take a dollop of soil out and put it beside where you've taken the soil out. So you have a hole and you have a mound every so often, and that stops this tunneling or channeling of the ground for water. So the water's held in the ground, and there's less sediment released. The one problem I found with hinge mounding is that once the grass goes up, you're liable to fall into one of the holes. You can have inverted mounding, where the excavator lifts the spoil out, turns it over and puts it back in the hole. So you have a flat surface, but you have a weed-free planting spot. And again, that's good for if you're close, reasonably close to the water course. Planting, you can have slit planting. That's where you put the spade in the ground, wobble it around and put the tree in. Slit planting can be T or L shaped, where you have two slits for a T or two for an L, and that just breaks the ground up a wee bit more. So if you have a slightly bigger root system, you can get it into the ground. You can have pit planting, that's the traditional planting, where you dig a hole and put trees with quite a well developed root system in. Spacing is usually 2 by 2 meters, but some schemes will allow you to go out to 3 by 3 meters. For some riparian planting, and if you weren't going through a scheme, you might want to go wider than that. The 2 by 2 meter spacing is a trade-off between producing knot-free timber and cost of planting, because you're going to have more plants to tie to the spacing. You plant the root collar level. That's the level that the trees were grown at in the nursery. Right, protection. Fencing, you can have deer fencing or stock-proof fencing. Deer fencing can be prohibitively expensive, but if you have a deer problem, you may have to carry out some stalking or some control of the deer. Stock-proof fencing is always required where you have any livestock grazing the area, because the livestock will pull out the trees and damage the shoots. You can have tree guards, a range of sizes. You can have 0.6 of a meter, which will protect from rabbits, to up to about 1.8 meters, which will protect from deer. You'll have to carry out some maintenance. This could be 3 to 5 years post-planting. Ideally, it'll only be for 3 years, but it depends on how vigorous the weed growth is and how well the trees establish. You can have hand weeding, very labor intensive and expensive and backbreaking work. You can have chemical weeding. I put a caveat in that it's not complete spraying of the ground. It's not boom spraying with a tractor. We're talking a targeted application of spray to create a weed-free position about 0.5 meter to 1 meter in diameter. Might touch on that a bit later. You can have mulches. That could be a weed suppressant fabric. It could be wood chip or bark, or it could be something like wool, but something that's thick enough that and durable enough that'll keep down weeds. You're going to have to check fences every year at least to check they're doing a job and fix them if they're not. And you need to fix tree guards. They're liable to blow over or break or get washed over if they're close to the stream bank, and they need to be straightened up. Species choice. You can have alder, willow, birch, oak, hazel, and again I put ash with a caveat. Ash isn't recommended for planting at the moment because of ash dieback, but who knows in the future. They're doing research into resistant strains of ash and it might come back again. They would be ashamed to lose it in the Irish landscape. Alder or willow would be particularly useful on very wet sites, sites prone to waterlogging. Birch to a slightly lesser degree. Sorry, go back. Oak and hazel on drier ground. I'll mention granted just a little bit in granted. In Northern Ireland, there's deer grant schemes such as the small woodland grant scheme. It's for areas of 0.2 of a hectare and more, and it's for native planting. And there's a flat rate for planting and an annual premium. There's also another grant called the Forest Expansion Scheme, which is for big areas. Those two grant schemes are going to be revamped this year in Northern Ireland. In the Republic of Ireland, you've got the DAFM grant schemes, such as the Native Woodland Scheme. To be honest, I haven't a lot of experience of grants in the Republic, so it's something I have to learn about and hopefully engaging with yourselves and learn a bit more. I know the Native Woodland Scheme requires a forester and an ecologist, an approved ecologist, to look at the site. There's also woodland trust schemes. The trees in the land scheme, trees can be purchased from as few as 10 trees up to 1,000 trees. And sometimes they sponsor trees to community groups, to landowners. This is also available in the Republic of Ireland. So just to finish with, I'll try this video. Riverwoods is a project in Scotland designed to develop riparian woodlands for biodiversity benefits. So there's a suite of videos, but this is just one of them. But if you're looking at links to just ask.